Good morning, everyone. This is Kim Warner, and I want to just talk a little bit about Mercury retrograde going into Scorpio. Pluto was on my mind. Of course, it went direct. And the reason why I wanted to talk about them is it was on my mind to really give people an understanding of the unity between astrology and the earth, or spiritual man. Yeah. So the spiritual man is developed by practices of denouncing era thinking or era situations, right? And generally, there's going to be a practice that helps, like Buddhism or Christianity, which are called religions, but there's an in-depth teaching in these religions that will take you into spirituality. So Pluto being on my mind took me to Nicodemus this morning. And that's in John, the 3rd chapter, the 1st through the 5th and 6th verse. And Nicodemus was asking Jesus about being born again. And Jesus said that in order to be born again, you must be rebirthed. And the rebirth process comes through transformation. The conversation came by Nicodemus actually asking, how could he see the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus said no one could see the kingdom of heaven or God until they were born again, because it's a closed off place. And that place is actually within each and every one of us. Astrology helps us to turn within. The spirit of Christ, say with that, is how I found this information to be very wealthy. Led me to the stars and the planets. And I rejected it a long time because of what, I had been taught in Christianity. So moving on from there, when things began to kind of like seem like the brakes were put on, I wasn't moving forward, I began to look at that and a couple other things that the spirit was showing me. So I began to really look at my sun sign, my rising, and my moon. And I knew attributes of my personality, which is my sun, and it represents the ego in me. But it was hard for me to transition from what I had been taught, where people were saying you don't do this, or you're this, that, and the other, you're in the occult or whatever, and everything is wrong but what they teach you. Well, I'm, the kind of person, and I found out with Uranus energy in my chart, I'm the kind of person that has been rebellious anyway. So, I would be called rebellious. However, I see myself free in that Uranus energy because I want to understand behaviors. And that's what I went to school for, after all. I have a master's in human service counseling, and I am pursuing my doctorate's degree right now. And I'm sorry if it's blurry. I'm sitting in a place where the sun is beaming in, but I need that light. So anyway, I'm pursuing my doctorate's degree, and all of my degrees, and even when I studied theology, I have a master's in biblical studies as well. And all of it led me to human behavior, because I asked, why do you teach in churches? It's all about behavior, and it's all about changing the behavior so we can understand how to live in the world at a better rate, better thinking, loving and embracing each other. So anyway, Nicodemus and Jesus had that conversation. And it took me to the place where if Jesus was able to turn water into wine, there was a transformation. What many people don't understand is being born again means that there's a transformation within your body, mind, soul, and spirit. And the soul is the number one thing that the universe and God is looking for, because in order to make this world a better place, the soul is trying to communicate to us that some things are not permissible for us anymore, and some things are needed to be added. And that's an individual journey. Okay, so with Mercury coming in to Scorpio, there can be influences of negative concerning hidden secrets and, the way that you act out jealousy and striving, because that's under Scorpio. Scorpio goes into the depth. It's ruled by by Pluto. It goes into the depths. You can be thinking negative about a situation that's coming into your thoughts, and it could totally be another way than what you're thinking. So what I ask is that if you're not meditating and praying, that you begin, because the intensity of the retrogrades come from our thinking. Mercury is a communication planet. That means that the thoughts that we think are communicating with our body, and our body begins to communicate what it wants to communicate outward. So it's an inward thought that communicates outward. So if it's negative in your mind, then you're going to communicate negative when it may not be so. Sometimes relationships can be saved by us just closing our mouth for a season, because our thinking is not always right. Sometimes we have thoughts that are coming up in a Pluto season that are actually toxic, and we need to look at the thoughts. They're not for everybody else to actually experience. So there is discipline, just like Jesus taught the disciples. We are to master and discipline ourselves. So Mercury being communication, and it's going to be an internal communication, going back within, and Scorpio being there's death and rebirth there. We have the choice if we can identify what is going to be dead and what is going to be rebirthed. Now, the universe has some ideas about things that we've been holding on that are not progressing us. So therefore, some of these things are going to go. But, I feel like we can make this less fear-based for people if we just explain that there's a negative and there's a positive. There's, the polarized aspect of everything, and that's in any sign or any retrograde. Because I'm a Capricorn, and I was looking forward to the energy when we first came out of Saturn retrograde, right? But I got sick. It was like, what is going on? And what I attribute it to is that because my stomach is attacked in those areas. When I'm not well, it's my stomach. Then something is trying to tell me to let go of some things. And that's not something that I need to talk about with everybody. This is something that I need to talk about with me and my God. And my God says that you're supposed to be the best version of yourself. So work on being the best version. Now, on the 16th of October, 2019, I'm going to have a class on Capricorns. It's going to tell the history. It's going to tell the structures, the building, what Capricorns are really here to do on a collective basis for themselves personally and for their families. And then on the 17th, we're going to have a Mercury retrograde class there. It will be 30 minutes in Scorpio. Those two classes together, for anybody that wants to be a part, are going to simply be $30. And there will be, a gift that you will get that will help you through Mercury retrograde in this season. You'll get some ideas and understanding in the Mercury retrograde class concerning how to protect yourself for people that don't know how to do that. And even understanding that, like right now, we're feeling some of retrograde coming in with Mercury, because for this week, I had been stumbling over my words, and I'm like, am I feeling this energy already? But then Pluto came back in, also, so direct. So if you want to be a part of the class, you can inbox me from this here video, tell your friends, and we can set it up. And those classes will be October 16th and the 17th, one on Capricorns, and then the next one will be on Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. So the emotions that you get in Scorpio with the retrograde, they don't have to take you and you become, like seas tossed to and fro. You can be disciplined enough to be grounded, but you got to use a devotion every day, such as meditation. You got to stay grounded and think positive. Get into that heart, okay? Thanks for listening. Subscribe And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.